Hey everyone, so now that we've finally heard from Mrs. Jody Wilson-Raybould from her testimony, as far as I'm concerned, some of the best information has now been presented and put forth. I'm not going to really cover too much as far as, the breaking story of the Globe and Mail article and all the subsequent events that have led us up to this point. I mean, you've already heard from a lot of people in both the alternative media and even in the established media referencing or talking about how that unfolded. And you've also heard Trudeau and his inner circle fumbling over each other, trying to come up with an excuse as to why they tried to use their position of authority to pressure Miss Raybould to give SNC-Lavalin a get-out-of-jail-free card. That deferred prosecution agreement. You know, that piece of legislation that was literally written specifically for that corporation, that very corrupt and crony corporation. And yeah, it's not just in regards to what happened in Libya. I mean, that's already bad enough. And we're hearing about the millions of dollars that SNC-Lavalin bigwigs spent and squandered on Gaddafi's son. What was it? $1.9 million for prostitutes? Wow, what the hell is up with those prostitutes? Some really expensive prostitutes, $1.9 million. Either that or these guys screw like rabbits. I don't know. But I mean, that corruption and the fact that they were bribing and using scrupulous or corrupt practices to gain contracts in countries halfway around the world. That's one thing, folks, and that's bad enough. But we must not forget about the fact that that kind of corruption, that kind of rampant corruption, that kind of fraud and bribery, yeah, that happened here in Canada as well. Just reference the story in regards to the hospital in Quebec, I believe it was in Montreal, the SNC-Lavalin, once again, bribed or paid off insiders or government lackeys so that they could get that contract. I mean, we know that that company's corrupt, and it's not just in foreign contracts, but in domestic contracts as well. And the whole reason why Ms. Raybould and the Justice Department decided not to give SNC-Lavalin this get-out-of-jail-free card, this deferred prosecution agreement, the reason why that is because they wouldn't fit the parameters to do so. This kind of agreement is for like a one-off, for a company that got caught with its pants down, or a CEO or someone with the pants down, and they get their first get-out-of-jail-free card, because if this is your first incident of corruption or bribery or fraud, hey, we'll try to, rather than bring the company down, we'll see what we can do to help you out. That's what those deferred prosecution agreements are for. But the reason why they decided not to give it for SNC-Lavalin is because they have a history of corruption. So no, they weren't even eligible for that. But I guess the Trudeau Liberals, they thought that they were going to make that happen irregardless of the facts, irregardless of reality. But as important, or maybe even more important than that, is the revelation that come out of Ms. Raybould's testimony. I'm not going to be referencing the first half of this entire article. I will definitely place a link to it in the description of this video, so you do have access to it. So the information is there if you want to read it in its entirety. But I am going to reference the part that I think is most important. And this is something that I'm sure a lot of you, like I say, you've heard a lot of stuff in regards to this big scandal. But I don't think enough of them out there are talking about this particular aspect of it. This brings us the final events in the chronology, and ones which signal, in my experience, the final escalation in efforts by the PMO to interfere in this matter. On December 18, 2018, my COS was urgently summoned to meet with Jerry Butts and Katie Telford to discuss SNC. They wanted to know where I am in terms of finding a solution. They told her that they felt like the issue was getting worse and that I was not doing anything. They referenced a possible call with the PM and the clerk the next day. I will now read to you a transcription of the most relevant sections of the text conversation between my COS and I almost immediately after the meeting. Jessica, basically they want a solution. Nothing new. They want external counsel retained to give you an opinion on whether you can review the DPP's decision here and whether you should in this case. I told them that would be interference. Jerry said, Jess, there's no solution here that doesn't involve some interference. So right there, just that one sentence alone, folks, is an admission of guilt. So however this story unfolds, however this plays out throughout the legal system, if someone isn't charged criminally for this, and if this is swept under the table and the Trudeau Liberals are basically given the ability to escape being held criminally responsible, then we already know how bad things are in Canada as far as holding your political overlords or your rulers to account. I mean, that is the stuff that a guilty verdict is based upon, folks. But even that is not the end of it, and still doesn't tell the whole story and just how corrupt not just the political actors in this country, but those in the media are as well. At least they are finally being honest about what they are asking you to do. Don't care about the PPSC's independence. Katie was like, we don't want to debate legalities anymore. They kept being like, we aren't lawyers, but there has to be some solution here. Mojang, so where were things left? JP, so unclear. I said I would, of course, let you know about the convo check, and they said they were going to kick the tires with a few more people on this tonight. The clerk was waiting outside when I left, but they said they want to set up a call between you and the PM and the clerk tomorrow. I said that of course you would be happy to speak to your boss. They seem quite keen on the idea of you retaining an XCC judge to get advice on this. Katie T thinks it gives us cover in the business community and the legal community, and it would allow the PM to say we are doing something. I mean, that's not even that. We're getting there, folks. But just think about the kind of words. Think about what they're basically suggesting or alluding to in just those few sentences alone. But yeah, it definitely gets a whole lot better right about now. She was like, if Jody is nervous, we would, of course, line up all kinds of people to write op-eds saying that what she is doing is proper. So there it is, folks. This, to me, is one of the most important, if not the most important aspect of this story. Yeah, like I say, there's lots of areas where, yeah, so maybe I shouldn't suggest the most important, but once again, this points out the fact that they're literally alluding to the fact that Trudeau Liberals, and you know, I suppose that $600 million helped make that reality even more entrenched, but even without the $600 million, most Canadians already understand that the ruling class in this country, the political parties, well, especially the federal Liberals, basically have most of the established media in their back pocket. And they're basically wholly admitting this in just this statement alone. And let me read it once again. She was like, if Jody is nervous, we would, of course, line up all kinds of people to write op-eds saying that what she is doing is proper. And who writes op-eds, folks? All those people in the establishment media. That's who. And you know, CBC would be definitely one of those institutions, one of those crony crown corporations that would be more than willing to line up to give excuses or political cover for this kind of corruption. And we're already seeing a little bit of that already today in regards to a couple of the articles I'm seeing coming out in regards to, oh, now they're saying that some legal experts don't know if this is illegal. I mean, it's all right there in black and white. It's illegal. It's criminal in nature. Like, once again, folks, that's a problem with speaking legalese. They can manipulate, distort, and completely deny reality if it suits their political purposes. This is definitely criminal in nature, and not just, you know, the fact that SNC level in. Not only are they doing criminal things, but obviously those in the federal Trudeau Liberal Party, all those lackeys that surround them, they're seemingly more than willing to be corrupt and do some illegal activities themselves. And Justin Trudeau apparently is more than willing to go along with it because he seems very much in the know in regards to what's been going on. But yet, like I say, CBC's out there already trying to do damage control. Even with this revelation, they're still willing and bold enough to try to create some kind of political cover for Justin Trudeau, even with the smoking gun still, well, the smoke's still literally curling off the gun. There's still a whiff of it in the air, and yet the CBC is already trying to do some political posturing in terms of giving Trudeau his own get-out-of-jail-free card. Like I say, folks, corruption is rampant in this country, and that, just this information alone, and there's a lot more contained within this entire article because it's her entire testimony. I mean, this is enough. Like, that's damning evidence enough. I mean, if you're a judge, you're listening to this stuff, right? Her testimony, well, unless it's proven that she was a liar. I mean, that would be, the only thing is if she was proven to be a complete liar, and it sure doesn't seem to be the case considering she was very meticulous in taking down notes and paying attention to what was being said so that she could cover her own butt, right? To tell you the truth, I actually believe this woman. And I think most Canadians do as well. And at the very least, even if nothing does come out of it politically, as far as, you know, Justin Trudeau or any one of his lackeys, if nobody gets charged criminally for this, well, at the very least, we now have further proof and evidence of the fact that, yeah, the established media, yeah, they're in the back pockets of the federal Liberals. And now that we know that they're trying to put the crackdown on social media platforms such as Facebook or Twitter, yeah, they're doing their best, folks, like I say, to make sure they're reelected in October. They're so desperate to hang on and to cling on to power that they're willing to do basically just about anything to do so. I'm saying, listen, folks, I sure hope Canadians are unwilling to go along with this stuff, and I hope and I expect to see the Trudeau Liberals go down in October, or hopefully even before that. I actually preferably would like to see someone actually be charged criminally and have to actually suffer some consequence for this massive amount of corruption, for this kind of illegality. But at the very least, Trudeau Liberals and his mindless minions, they've got to go. And if the Canadian people choose to keep Justin Trudeau and the federal Liberals in power after October, well, you take that as one more piece of evidence that basically the political system in this country is completely destroyed and there's nothing you're going to do to change or correct it. And then you should react and respond accordingly. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.